What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of The Forge. This week's episode, we dive into Proverbs chapter 31 and discuss whether or not this chapter is actually for women or is it directed toward men. I hope you enjoy this episode of The Forge. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Forge. This is our 11th episode, and this is going to be a good one. We have been kind of going back and forth pre-gaming this episode, talking about the topics in this, and it's really good.
Let's just wait for the topic. Everybody else hear it in the end.
Yep.
Well, I mean, the title.
So, do you want to go back and forth? Because I've got this first so many verses in.
Well, let me just kind of preface some of this where we're at. So, I was with some guys. They weren't church guys. I'm a volunteer fireman. So we run fires, and so when we come back to the station, you got to clean hoses and put everything up and that kind of stuff. So we were just jack-jawing, and one of the guys says, "Hey, I'll be out the rest of the evening. I have to go to a funeral. Oh, I mean a wedding. A buddy of mine's getting married." And I'm like, and he's kind of goes into the whole like really giving his life away kind of thing. Didn't you try to talk him out of it? All the stuff that, to be honest, I've done it years ago. I'm not gonna lie.
We joke. All guys joke about the ball and chain.
But it kind of hit me with just everything that we've been talking about with, you go back to Ephesians 5 when we discuss Ephesians 5 and how you're supposed to treat your wife and how you're supposed to love your wife, you're supposed to love her as Christ loved the church and all these things. And I'm just like, so it hit me. I just don't know about that, And so I just started delving into scripture a little bit because it just kept kind of was on my mind all week, and trying to find the scripture real quick that I had looked up the other day. Oh, the first scripture that come to mind was, "Whosoever findeth a wife findeth a good thing and obtaineth favor of the Lord." Proverbs 18:22. So that's kind of where it all started, because I remembered that scripture in my head. And then I also remembered one that said, well, she's more priceless than rubies. And that led me to Proverbs 31. And so I'm kind of like, oh, so let me read that. So I read that. And then, so I backed up a verse or two. And then that's when I realized something. I've read Proverbs 31, but I guess I always just kind of glazed over it because we've always called Proverbs 31, well, she's a Proverbs 31 woman.
Right. Especially in church circles.
Yeah. And so, when you get to Proverbs 31, you just kind of like, it's kind of skipping the rock across the water, ching, ching, ching. You just kind of, hit it right 2 or 3 times and go on,
women, right? It's
for the women. But I started reading it in the first verse, and I guess it's because God has laid this ministry on us so much with the men. It just stood out to me. And, I've said before, if you really look at the time and date of when scripture was written, it was probably written primarily more to the men than the women. The men were supposed to take the word back to their women. So all that kind of stuff in mind, I read the first verse. And the first verse says, "The words of King Balaam, the prophecy that his mother taught him." And I was like, hold on a minute. This is a mama talking to her son. And so then I was intrigued. I couldn't lay the Bible down about it. Like, okay, let me look at this. So then it goes, "What, my son, and what the son of my womb, and what the son of my vows, you give not thy strength unto women, nor the ways to which destroyeth kings." And so she's starting to tell him, how you're supposed to act and what you're supposed to do. And I'm thinking there, I'm like, where does this start talking about women again? So I skip on that. It's all the way to verse 10 before we get to what is a virtuous woman. So, verse 3 is talking about not giving yourself to moral impurity. She understood the full weakness produced in a man who succumbs to immortality. So it's like she's teaching him. Now, I called you earlier this week and you started delving in. So you've got some sides of this that you want to give into.
Well,
so anywhere I was saying something that you've got a thought, just throw it in there.
Let me read the first 9 verses in the Amplified, because I think the Amplified brings so much clarity and it reads so well whenever you're studying something. And I was reading this a little bit ago. Well, of course, I read it earlier, but in light of what we were just talking about, so it says, the words of King Lemuel, the oracle which his mother taught him. She says, what, O my son, and what, O son of my womb? What shall I advise you, O son of my vows? Do not give your generative strength to women, neither foreign wives and marriages of alliances nor concubines. She says, nor your ways to that which destroys kings. She explains, she says, it is not for kings, O Lemuel. It is not for kings to drink wine, or for rulers to desire strong drink. Otherwise, they drink and forget the law and its decrees, and pervert the rights of justice of all of the afflicted.
All right, hold up right there. Let me tell you let me tell them what I told you a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
I come up with a background in law enforcement. 10 years in law enforcement, have took various shooting classes and training classes from various different instructors, and a lot of them, one of them was a very well-known instructor, James Yeager. He was the owner and CEO of Tactical Response before he passed away a few years ago. He didn't drink ever. Not that he'd said he was anything wrong with it, but to him it was just that verse of, if you drink, you're going to forget the law and it's going to pervert your judgment. And he was always his catchphrase, and it's still the catchphrase of the company today. But when he passed away, his catchphrase was, "Your responsibility to be ready for the fight never ends." So he always wanted to be prepared in case something was to happen.
Right.
You know, and you can say, "Oh, that's paranoia, that's whatever." Well, oh, bro,
I don't think so.
the world
I
we
think
live
that
in
it
right
is
now, I mean, there's articles, dude got shot at a truck. I'm a truck driver. He got shot at a fuel island in a truck stop in Horse Cave, Kentucky at the Loves
right.
just Thursday.
Well, if
So
you,
it's like, you
a
know,
lot of people that have been, I want to say interviewed, have been talked to, that have been in the human trafficking realm, they state that whenever that it was asked, okay, how do you pick a family or a target to decide that you're going to attack them, steal from them, take their car, take their kids? What do you look for?
the week,
Well, they look at the
unalert,
husband. They said that
unalert.
they look
Yeah.
at the husband, and if he looks like he is incapable or incapacitated, then that's their target.
Yeah. So, I mean, so this is not just scripturally wise, is it right or wrong to drink? This
Right.
is just a preparedness standpoint as the
This is
man.
just
It's
just
your
about your ability to fulfill your
provider,
responsibility.
protector,
Yes.
you know,
Yep.
pastor, provider, protector.
Yep.
We're a protector. You can't protect if you're can't even stand up because you dang,
Exactly right.
had too many wobble
Yep.
pops,
And I think in my personal opinion, that extends to any substance that you take in excess.
Exactly. Any of it. Yes. All right. Go on with verse 6 now. I interrupted you, but go ahead.
No, you're good. It says, and pervert the right. It says, so otherwise they drink and forget the law and its decrees, and pervert the rights and justice of all the afflicted. Give strong drink as medicine only to him who is ready to pass away, and wine to him whose life is bitter. Let him drink and forget his poverty, and no longer remember his trouble. Open your mouth for the mute, for the rights of all who are unfortunate and defenseless. So what she's saying is, she's saying it is not your role. Your role is to protect, defend, and stand for these people who are in poverty, who are sick, who are about to die. If they were to have medicine, those people can have medicine. But you need to hold yourself to a higher account. You have a higher tier level. You can't partake of those things because your responsibility is greater. That's how I take what she is
Yeah.
saying to him. And she says, open your mouth for the mute. In other words, talk for those who can't talk themselves, stand for the rights of all who are unfortunate and defenseless. Talk for those who can't speak out, for those who can't speak out, stand for those who can't stand, fight for those who can't fight. Open your mouth and judge righteously and administer justice for the afflicted and needy. And so these first 9 verses, she's telling him who he needs to be.
Yeah. So
This is supposed to be the Proverbs 31 woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
And before they ever get to what a virtuous woman is, she says, if you're ever going to be worthy of a virtuous woman, this is who you need to be. This is your role and responsibility. This goes back to Ephesians 5. what we were talking about in Ephesians.
Yeah. So I'm in the Apostolic Study Bible, and verses 6 and 7, and here the explanation out the bottom says, the most reasonable interpretation of these verses is that they were spoken in irony. A wise mother would never suggest to her son that he give intoxicating beverages to those with heavy hearts, which is a lot of times what happens. Like, you see, the more poorer people get, a lot of times, the more they turn to substances to.
I think what she meant was just leave it to those people. This is not for you.
Yeah.
If they're going to do it, let them do it, but not you.
So they could drink, forget their poverty, and no longer remember their misery. Alcohol would never solve their problem. They would not awaken from their drunken slumber with glad hearts and riches. Intoxicating beverages do not rescue the perishing. Right. So it doesn't fix the problem. Like, you can give it to the person that's sick, it'll just ease the pain.
Yeah.
But it doesn't fix the problem.
Right.
And it's not gonna. You got a heavy heart. I mean, as soon as it's over, you're still gonna have a heavy heart. It may subside it for a little while, but then here it's gonna come back.
Yep.
So yes, but the first 9 verses, man, it's like, guys, this is what you need to be, and the standards you need to hold yourself to, so that you're worthy to have a virtuous woman. So then in verse 10 it says, this is the verse that come to me about the being pricier than rubies. Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. So this is where I feel like the whole thing's changed, because something that's valuable, I mean, you just don't leave it laying around for people to just snatch it up as they're walking by. If you had millions of dollars, you just wouldn't set them out on a table in the public for everybody to come by and just
this
loot
ties
from it.
Directly into what we've talked about a wife being conservative and how that she presents her body.
Yeah. You would keep
talked about this in another episode.
Yeah. You would keep them protected. I mean, you're a protector.
You don't want them. You don't want their goods to be shown. You don't want them. They're valuable. They are,
So if you have something that's valuable, well, then that goes back up here to the verse, 5, 4, 5, and 6,
right?
Or 4 and 5, well, if you're protecting something valuable, you don't need to be liberated to the point that you can't.
Whenever, yep.
So it kind of keeps circling back. But so verse 10, we read that, it says, the heart of a husband doeth safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil. So here we're still talking about him. Where's the woman at here? Like,
right.
I'm not trying to be whatever, because I mean, this has always been, Proverbs 31 woman is a huge thing amongst the apostolics, always has been. And I'm not trying to knock that, because it is very good.
We're just trying to insert that a man plays a role in this too.
Well, I'm just trying to insert that really and truly the scripture text was wrote for the man to find this woman.
That's right.
Now, it is awesome that women go to this verse and go, okay, if I do these things, then I should be able to find a man, because these men are supposed to be looking for.
I would direct
these
women
things.
who are wanting to be a Proverbs 31 woman to look at the first 9 verses and find a man that's like this.
Well,
right. So
it goes both directions. Yeah,
it
goes both directions. But the thing but here's the thing. The thing is, you have so many women. I've raised 2 daughters. I have 3. Didn't raise the first one. It's a long story. She was 13 by the time I found out she was mine. But I love her kids. I've got 3 grandbabies, all girls. So as the years progress, this is what Poppy's going to teach them.
Yep.
Right? Because they need to be a virtuous woman. And I've taught my 2 girls to be virtuous women. The problem we're running into is, you can teach them everything from verse 10 to 31 over here.
Yeah.
But if you can't find somebody that fits the first 9.
Exactly.
Then you got a problem.
That's what this whole episode's about.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole problem. But don't look at your woman as a ball and chain, because as we get on over here, I'm going to read something here in a minute that stood out to me that I made notes on forever ago. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've had this Apostolic Study Bible for 13, 14 years. So somewhere along the line, I've read this, highlighted it. I mean, it's highlighted. I've got stuff wrote, and it didn't jump out to me the way it did today when I read it again.
That's the amazing thing about the Bible.
But because I got this Bible, I've read it in my phone all week, several times. But today I went and got the study Bible when before we got to come up here. I was like, I want to read this through again. And I was seeing that. I was like, holy cow. So anyway, it says, she will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. She seeketh wool and flax, and worketh willingly with her hands. She is like the merchant ship. She bringeth her food from afar. She riseth also while it is yet night, and giveth meat to her household, and a portion to her maidens. She considereth a field, and buyeth it. With the fruit of her hands she planteth a vineyard. She girdeth her loins with strength, and strengtheneth her arms. She perceiveth that her merchandise is good. Her candle goeth not out by night. She layeth her hands to the spindle, and her hands hold the staff. She stretcheth out her hands to the poor, yet she reacheth forth her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet. She maketh her coverings of tapestry. Her clothing is silk and purple. I've heard some scholarly stuff about silk and purple, but I'm not familiar with that. You might be, but I'm not. But here's the verse I was talking about a while ago. It says, her husband is known in the gates when he sitteth among the elders of the land. And over in the caption in the middle there, I've got Proverbs 24:7. So if you flip back over to 24:7, it says, wisdom is too high for a fool. He openeth not his mouth in the gate. And it's so if you drop down here to the subtitle for verse 7, it says, a person who has interest in wisdom demonstrates the characteristics of a fool. He may be able to speak on many subjects, but when it comes to situations that require wisdom, he is speechless. The gate was where the city rulers sat in judgment in ancient Israel. And then that scripture text pushes you back over to verse 23 where we were just at. And that scripture again is, her husband is known in the gates when he sitteth amongst the elders of the land. And if you drop down into the subtitle of that, it says, and this is where it gets interesting. This to me is where it stands out how important the woman is in the marriage. It says, the city gates were the place where the esteemed elders, leaders of the community gathered for discussion, decision, and judgment. The husband of the virtuous woman is so blessed by her wisdom and diligence that he is well known, he is well thought of amongst the wise.
So get this, that same verse in the Amplified says, her husband is known in the city gates when he sits among the elders of the land. And it has a reference to Proverbs 12:4. And Proverbs 12:4 says, a virtuous and excellent wife that is worthy of honor is the crown of her husband.
I'm going to tell you, I've heard my whole life, the guys go, you said 12:4. I'm going to just look it over here. It says, behind every good man of God is an even better woman. And I've never really thought about what that meant until I'm reading this, today.
Right.
Okay. So here's what the bottom says down here. The phrase a virtuous woman appears 3 times in the Old Testament. Once here in Proverbs 31:10, and then once here, and then in Proverbs 31:10, and then in Ruth 3:11. In the order of the books in the Hebrew scriptures, the book of Ruth follows Proverbs. This chronological order suggests Ruth is an example of the virtuous woman described in the final 21 verses of the book of Proverbs.
Interesting.
Hmm.
It's interesting to note here that among the elders, a wife that is like that to her husband is as if he's sitting there with a crown on his head, not a crayon, a crown.
Well, and so
It's almost a signature of royalty. Now, I will bring up real quick too, just a little side note. You were talking about the colors; those are metaphorical. So, well, as a king, they wouldn't be though. Okay, these different colors represent the red, the scarlet that it's talking about her family is dressed in is a type and shadow of the blood of Christ. It's a covering, a protection. So it's saying, in other words, metaphorically, that a wife like this covers her family, her children in the blood of Christ. And
What's
then
the
her
purple? The purple was the color it said.
yeah, purple is royalty. It means that she is highly esteemed, she's highly regarded, she's of the royal courts, that she should be regarded as if she's royalty, is the type and
Gotcha.
shadow right back and forth.
So, that being said, that just goes to tell you boys, you just can't, I won't say marry the first girl that comes along, but you can't just grab a girl up and say, "Oh, now I'm married. I'm
Right.
gonna marry this one."
Man,
You really need
I
to
could
seek
say a whole
this
lot about this too because
you really need to seek this out,
yes,
because this is not that she is gonna be what'll make or break you as a man
yes,
in your role in life as a man of God, especially if you're called to preach
yep,
or anything of that nature. We talked about that on the last podcast. Not every man's going to be a preacher. Not every man's name's going to be, you know, 13, 14 years ago when we were trying to go to the mission field, the thought crossed my mind. I thought several times, like, well, if I was alive during the time of the Bible, or if the Bible was being wrote today, would my name even be mentioned in it? You know, and would I just be one of the ones that this one begot, that one begot, this one begot, that one, which is important. I mean, it is. But, would you actually be called by name because of something great you did? But sometimes it's not your place to be that great person. You were
true.
just the bearer of the seed that
Mhm.
got passed on to generation that made the great King David and made all the great people that happened to come upon. So, I mean, but there's importance in your woman. You can't just grab the first hot looking thing that comes down the street and marry her up.
Well, I can tell you, having been through a divorce before my current wife, and our anniversary was this past week, say Saturday, so I guess technically this week. And I can tell you the stuff that has happened, the stuff that we've been through, a lesser woman wouldn't have made it. You know,
Oh yeah, I mean,
like you just look at the because I've not always been the perfect husband. I'm not always been the kingly husband of the first 9 verses. I've not always been
me
the
neither.
one who was well tempered and handled
Me
things
neither.
correctly
Me
and
neither.
made the right choices and was easy to talk to or easy to deal with in certain situations. No,
Well, there's 10 years difference.
I've got rough edges.
There's 10 years difference between me and you in age, but when it comes to marriage, where you at 10 years? Where you at?
11 together,
11.
13. Yeah,
Yeah,
married
11.
for 11.
So we've been to get me and my wife. It comes September, we married 28. So it's like almost like two and a half times or so more. You know, how, dude. You know, at 10 years, let me think. 98 BO 2008.
Yeah,
So 2008, what was we doing? 2008 was probably some of the roughest point in time of my life, bro.
right.
I had went back into law enforcement. My wife had just got out of college. Look, I drove a truck for um 2 years while she completed her bachelor's degree while raising 3 kids, pretty much as a single mom, except for me being home on the weekend. But then I was running so hard. The trucking company was the same one I work for today, but back then I was new, so you just had to shut up and put your head down. But if you ran less than 3,000 miles a week, you was a slacker. Like, we humped it. And you'd get home a lot of times early Saturday morning and be home long enough to get a 34-hour restart in to start your clock back over, and then leave back out on Sunday after morning church, take back off again. Or while you were home, you'd be sitting at the kitchen table trying to finagle your coloring books, as we called them in trucking, to reflect that you were home 34 hours so that you could get back up on Sunday and leave back out again. Like, it was that crazy for 2 years. It was like that. And she finally got out of college and I went back to the sheriff's office. And for the next 3.5 years or so, when I was at the sheriff's office, it wasn't any better. I mean, I wasn't making any money. I was coming home and sleeping in my bed every night, but I was working two jobs, 12-hour shift jobs, and just constant go, 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 go. And yeah, during that time was probably some of the roughest times. I tell people all the time, my wife, I can't. There's no way I can get rid of her for everything she's done.
Right,
From like, I've asked my wife to endure two of the worst
right.
occupations you'd ever ask a wife to endure: law enforcement and truck driving. Like, and we were talking here a while back, and it was kind of a jokingly kind of thing. We were sitting around yakking, but we were pretty dead serious too. Like, we're in this for the long haul now because
Yep.
we're both too old and too tired to train another one.
That's what I told well, I was talking to my wife
It's like,
yesterday,
it's
and
like,
I was like, "Man, we're 13 years in, we're too deep. What I don't have any energy or desire to start over with a whole 'nother woman, you know, and have to learn her quirks and her ways and try to find ways to make her happy, and at the same time, her learn mine. I don't have the patience
well,
or desire for any of that."
in less than 2 weeks, I'll be 49.
Mm,
Okay, so been married 28 years, so I'm over half my life. I've been with this one woman.
right.
This she is like, I can't think of any part of my life that doesn't revolve around her in some way. You know, like, so if something was to happen, like, how must like I feel like also, how could you ever? And I know people went on to marry other people. I'm not saying that you've done something wrong or whatever. That's not what I'm going at here. Where I'm going at is, it would take a lot for me to date somebody else because I feel like it would be an injustice to
You
him.
can
Because I would be like,
yeah.
if something
Yeah,
happened to my wife and she passed away, I'm like, well, Melanie used to do it this way. you know,
yeah.
well, Melanie used to do it this way. And
Well,
this is what
and the
Melanie
way
used
my
to do.
wife does
You
things,
know,
for the most part, I like the way she does things,
yeah,
and it would be a disservice to another woman, and I can't even imagine trying to date. I
that's
can't
me.
I
Like,
can't even I told
but then my
Cassie,
wife says, you got to have another woman. She tells the
well
kids all the time, make sure your dad marries somebody because somebody's got to take care of him.
well,
I'm like, baby,
that's not
I'd
what
probably
my
just,
wife says. My wife says, "I'll haunt you, you better."
well,
Anyway,
my,
no, I told her, I said, "If something happens to you, I'm gonna get me a" because I've always wanted an English bulldog, the big wrinkly faces. I said, "If anything ever happens to you, I'm just gonna take a section of the insurance money and get a bulldog and name it Cassie, and we're just gonna be together forever, except you're gonna be a dog now, and that's just the
well,
way it is."
I heard old man once say one time that his wife was part Indian and part bulldog. One time she wasn't growling, she was on the warpath. But no, I mean, I'm just saying, like, guys, women are very, it's a God thing. Like, it's
Yes,
God,
it's a God designed for a purpose.
John Lovell, I seen him doing a podcast one time, and he says, I think I mentioned this maybe last week or whenever it was. Anyway, he said, the goal is not for the two of y'all to get closer together. The two of y'all, the goal for each one of y'all is to get closer to God.
That's
And
right.
as you get closer to that one single point at the
Yes.
top,
Yep.
the two of y'all get closer together. And so
Yes.
and then I've had old ministers always say, well, it takes three to make two become one.
Yes.
So
And that
like,
seems like such a silly catchphrase to someone who hasn't been married for any length of time or has never been married, but I can assure you that I can't think of a single situation, no matter the circumstance, whether it's between us or something we're experiencing happening to us, it doesn't matter what the circumstance is, every single time, whether I'm the problem or she's the problem or both the problem or something else is the problem, prayer, going to God with it has resolved it every single time. Whether it's something I need to fix or something she needs to fix or something we can't fix that's external that we're like, God, we need you to help us through it. He's always been the answer. Like, and it is the solidifying thing that anytime there's a problem, he's like, don't worry about it. I got it.
well, then
It's
that,
so nice to have that third wheel. I can't imagine being in a marriage. And I was in a marriage previously where we were in church together and she relapsed and went the other direction. So I had a little bit of an experience there at the end of what it was like to have a wife that was not at all serving God. And I can't imagine not having a Christ centered marriage. It's a nightmare.
there's also a part of marriage though, as just time spent together that, and I didn't have words to put it in. I didn't realize what was going on until I read an author the other day. I can't remember what book. I'm reading two or three different men's devotional kind of books and stuff right now. But the comment was made that you got to stop arguing with your wife for the sake of winning the argument.
Oh,
You got to
yeah.
argue with her. If you argue with her, it's for the sake of, this is what's best for the family. As the leader of the family and the one who's going to take judgment for what happens, You're not winning. You're not arguing just for the sake of winning. Like if in the argument she does say something that changes your mind, you got to be willing to bow out at that point
Yep.
and be like, "Oh, okay, baby, I do see what you're talking about." Now it's not just arguing for the sake of winning
Right.
anymore.
Well, and I think there's definitely a maturity level to that too. Like, I don't know, and of course, like I said, this is not my first marriage, but um, I don't know that I've ever argued with her for the sake of being right. I don't have
Oh, I
any
can't say that.
desire in my body to be vindictive, you know?
When you
And
do a job every day like I did when you're in law enforcement, you're 100% in control, and you are the right. Nobody's going to tell you you're wrong. When you come home and you get into altercation with your wife about something, like you're arguing about something, you're n- you're not going to be the one that's wrong
I understand.
because you're always the one that's right.
Yeah.
And it's took a long time for me to realize. I tell people all the time, my wife, hands down, probably one of the smartest people I know. I mean, she's master's degree educated in curriculum instruction, education, and then I've got 2 daughters who have bachelor's degrees. The 2 girls that we raised went off to go to college. Both of them smart enough that got full paid, not like scholarship stuff, but just enough scholarship stuff
Right.
that neither one of them had to have a job all the way through school much. They done a little side hustle stuff here and there, but, like, one of them lived off campus on campus for 3 years and went to college and come out with 0 debt with a bachelor's degree. The other one wound up with a little bit of college debt because she had to do her student teaching in the county where the college was,
Right.
and so she had to wind up staying on campus, and that cost her a little bit of
Right.
time. So she had to take a little bit, but she's done paid it off. I mean, it's done paid off and everything's good. So it's like they're very smart women. And I tell all the time I'll come to them, I'm just an old country hick boy, okay, for the most part. And I think I'll look at things very simple. Case in point, kind of off the topic. I know we've got to get back into these last few verses, but we still got some time. So Victor Marks, we both like Victor pretty good.
Yeah.
Victor, I seen a thing about him here a while back, and he said, "People tell me I need to be nice, and I tell people I'm not nice. I'm kind, and there's a difference." And as old Southern boy, I'm like, no, not really. It's like nice is kind is nice. It's the same thing. And so I'd watched this reel, and well, about that time, the 2 smartest women I know come into the room, my wife and our oldest daughter. And I said, "Girls," I said, "tell me what's the difference between being nice and being kind." And basically, it breaks down to nice is something that you just do, but kind is who you are.
Right.
If you're nice to somebody, it's usually because you're wanting something, you're trying to achieve something. And if you get what you
Yep.
want or you don't get what you want, dictates at what point you stop being nice. But kind doesn't expect anything in return.
Right.
You do it because
It's the
it's the
right
right
thing to
thing to
do.
do.
Well, and
Exactly.
I think Jordan Peterson is the one who this quote. He was talking about how that a good man is not a man incapable of violence. A good man is a violent man who has it under voluntary control.
Yeah.
It
So
means like you don't want, woe unto them who have a gardener in a time of war
yeah,
versus, a warrior in the garden when war arrives.
yeah. Well, the whole point of the comment I was making is just my women, because they're educated and because they're just, I mean, they've been around. I mean, my wife's been teaching school for almost 20 years now. And so it's like, and she 911 dispatched before that for several years, and she's raised 3 kids and raised several other people's kids 1 year at a time, for the last 20 years. So she's got a lot of life lesson stuff, so it's just like I rely on them a lot sometimes to, correct my country hickness and the simpleness of things and actually put it into terms that, I text my wife all the time. It's like, "Hey, I want to say this to somebody, but I need you to make it sound like something that somebody wants to read." And I just tell her, and I call her and I tell her what I want to say. And she says, "Okay." And she can type out something and I can either copy and paste it on the phone and text it to them, or I can write it down on something. And I've got phenomenal handwriting. I write fabulous. So I can write, but you just got to tell me what to write. Like
Right.
I can make it, you can read it. It's legible, but I mean, the product of a great woman, though. I mean, we're seeing here how much it values you because
Yeah.
you're sitting at the gate with the leaders, the elders,
And
you know,
respected by them
and respected by
because of
them
her.
because of her wisdom and diligence. It
Yeah.
says so. They have seen the things that she's done in these prior verses. Went out and bought the land and all the things that she's done, the vineyard and making the clothes. They've seen these things as she's done them. Realizes that she's a great woman, and if she's doing all these things, and chances are you're fulfilling your part because she's willingly and openly doing those things for you. So in turn, it brings in, the respect of men around you,
Right.
you know.
I
So,
was sitting here thinking about some different things with my wife, being our anniversary this yesterday, and, I knew I can tell you this, I knew when that I was gonna marry her during a specific time, and her and I were on a date night, and we were at a mall, a big mall that had, like, a putt-putt golf course, a glow-in-the-dark putt-putt golf course inside, and, we had spent the day just kinda roaming around. We'd gone to restaurants, of course, women like to shop, so I walked with her through the mall. Now, 11 years later, I don't really go to the mall much anymore. She doesn't take me. She's like, "I don't like going to the mall with you." And, I'm like, "Why?" She's like, "'Cause you just wanna rush me through, and I like to dilly-dally and look at things," and you're like, "Okay, well, it's time to go." So, 11 years later, we don't do much mall trips together anymore, but anyway, so we were on date night, and I took her to the mall because I knew she liked it, and I was trying to get her to like me. And we did a game of putt-putt, and, her and I were struggling with one hole, and I was getting frustrated, and I hit the ball a little too hard, and pinged off, went flying over some way, and she didn't say anything about it. She didn't say, "Well, good job, Goofy," or "Good job, you idiot," "No, look, the ball's clear over here." She just went over and picked up the ball, brought it over to me, and handed it to me. You know what I mean? And I knew then, like, I knew, in my heart that this is the woman, that I know that I'm gonna do something goofy or do something stupid, and she's gonna, with grace and love, stick with me through it. You know what I mean? And I know
yeah,
that seems stupid, but it was a glimpse into her character when that happened,
yeah.
right?
I don't know exactly the time and date and when I knew that I was going to marry my wife, but I knew after dating her I mean, we dated for 7 months. Like from the time we started dating to the time we married was only 7 months. We'd only been dating a couple months when I asked her to marry me. And, but I just, I grew up for the most part. My mama got married a couple years before I, um, I got married. She got married to my stepfather, but she had been a single mom from the time I was in seventh grade, going into seventh grade, and moved in with her. The time I got out of high school, so lived 6 years, 7-ish years after I got out of high school. I think it took about another year. Well, no, I don't think she got married. I graduated in May, and she got married the next like April or something. So, and then I didn't even got I just turned 18. So anyway, my mom was a strong woman. You know, took care of things on her own, raised us 3 kids. There ain't
Right.
none of us. There ain't none of us. Killed nobody or done anything crazy. I can't say that none of us been in jail. I think but or nothing. But it's there. We're fairly good people for the most part. And I was like, so I guess my wife, she was always kind of on the verge of that feminist movement of I can do things on my own. I don't need a man. And I guess because my mom had always kind of been, I don't really need a
It felt
dude.
like home.
It just felt good. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, good. I don't have to hold her hand. I don't have to do all the mushy stuff. Like she can handle her own self. You know, I guess it just in a couple months, we're like, oh, this is going to work. And I asked her to marry me and she said yes. So, hey,
Here you are.
at this point, she
Was it
screwed
28
up.
years later, you said?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she's the one screwed up. She could have said
She
no.
screwed up. You married up.
I did.
I did too.
I mean, she could have said
No doubt
no.
about it.
She could have said no.
On all the areas that I lack and I am not good, she is. She's kind, she's giving, she's loving to a fault, she
Well,
trusts people, and I'm the opposite.
that's where the problems come in with us. I don't know, 4 or 5. I know it's been longer than that. It's been 7, 6, 7, 8 years ago. I can't remember. It's been a while. All of our friends at the time, we're still friends with them all, but like at the time, there was 3 families of us at church that if you seen one of us out and about somewhere doing something fun, the other two families were in tow. Like it
Right.
was just that way. And when they all first started, there was a fourth family, and they kind of derailed off of us, and still great friends of ours. They're great people, and then this other family's kind of ventured off, and now it's back to the two originals. Us and the Sweatmans have we've been friends with them for my wife's been friends with them for 30 years, because they went to church together before we were married. But anyway, it was like we're sitting around with all of them at the table at this marriage retreat that we were at, and they all counterbalance each other, just like you're talking about you and Cassie. It's like, you know, Anthony, wide open.
Anthony's Anthony,
It's
man.
like, what is his Enneagram? His Enneagram is 7, where he's like, hey, you want to see me light my hand on fire? Kind of guy. He's like,
Yeah.
just always want to do something crazy. And
He's got more chainsaw scars than any one man I've ever met before in my life.
with that, and there's not really a scar much left up, but he's trying to cut his arm off with a grinder with a concrete cutting blade on it with no guard.
Dear Lord.
When we were building Sean Lewis's church in Fayetteville, and he went over there one time, worked by himself. The ironic thing is, when I found out what happened, when we were there together the time before, he asked the guy at Lowe's, he's like, hey, do you think it would be safe to take this guard off and put like a 10-inch blade on here that I could cut through concrete with? The guy's like, oh, that probably wouldn't be safe.
And that's what he did.
Anyway, so Anthony, and then you got Tansy. She counterbalanced him.
Yeah.
She's a list organized, like down to the letter type person. Well, then you got Greg and Susan. Greg,
She's also, I've only had a few interactions with her, but she, in comparison to Anthony, she's much more refined of an individual.
well, that's what a one is. Like one is like very list oriented, goal focused,
Yeah.
like honed in on things, right? Then you got Greg and Susan. Greg is 100% like chill, laid back, doesn't push anything, doesn't do anything, but he's just a dude. He's like, no big deal, nothing really bothers him. He's just cool, chill, laid back. But Susan, on the other hand, number one, real like, and I don't mean this bad, Susan, kind of uptight a little bit. Like things are on a list. We got to go by the list. We got to do things this way. Greg's just like, yeah, whatever. He's not like, let's set the hand on fire type, whatever. But he's just like, he'll just roll with the flow of things.
Yeah.
And then there was Benji and April. Benji was the opposite it was the opposite in that family as it was the other. Benji's real goal oriented, like list and organized type of guy. I don't know what his Enneagram number is, but now April, she's the one, buddy, ready for the next adventure, whatever it is, and so competitive, ready to rock and roll.
When I first started coming here, I knew everything I needed to know about Benji and April and the interactions I had with them, because the first time I really got to know Benji, we were in the mountains, and I learned he was like a billy goat, and he was here, there, and everywhere, like a ping pong ball, climbing up sheer cliffs. And then I was at the gas station over at, was down here by the 4-way. What is that? Anyway, I was at the gas station. I didn't realize it was her sitting in the vehicle. I came around, she honked her horn and scared the crap out of me. And she sat there and laughed till she cried in the van. And I'm like, well, I think I've got a really good idea of who these kind of people are.
She's like, oh, you want to go, race down the rapids and take a chance of dying? Yes.
That's her,
she's who she is. But now when it comes to me and Melanie, we're both like type A personality people. Like both of us are warrior fighter mindset people, up on the guard all the time, kind of ready to, both of them are very opinionated, very, whatever. She's a 3 and I'm a
See, I've never
8.
taken these tests.
Have you not? They're cool, bro. It got to be,
where do you
can look it up online. It was Susan's thing. So Susan's the one that pushed it out on all of us. And she was guessing us because
how accurate was she? Pretty accurate.
She was pretty accurate.
She's
pretty accurate. So anyway,
rabbit hole.
It just kind of, but what I'm trying to say is like, we were not, like you're telling you and your wife are opposites. Me and my wife are not. Like you could ask our kids. Neither one of us are going to baby you or pamper you or be nice. If you screwed up, you're going to get yelled at probably.
That's how me and Cass are the opposite. Cassie's the nurturer. She's a nurse. She's the pushover.
Now we
never
will
spanks the kids. They never get in trouble, and they know it.
It comes to the point of which discipline are we going to go with? That's the kind of thing with our, like both of them. Neither one of them are going to be fun. Neither one of them are going to be good.
I think the good Lord knew I couldn't handle another personality like mine. I think he knew.
But people tell us all the time, your kids ever had a chance. Like our kids are so sassy and but they're focused.
We gotta have our wives on here on an episode soon.
You get them focused and on mission. And my kids are on mission, bro. They just, they don't back up. And you tell them this has got to be done. And because me and my wife are both that way, it's like, okay, you know, we're whatever we got to do, we're going to get it done. So we were not opposites of each other. And there's some things we do a little opposite, but for the most part, our characters are not. They're pretty much honed in, type A personalities, ready to rock, ready to roll. Let's get it done. The quicker the better. We are slowing down in our old age, but
That happened.
yeah.
So
Let's go.
I was just thinking about I have a summary here that was really, really good that kind of just covers this whole verse. And it is kind of just some bullet points of what this looks like is, she's spiritually grounded. Her ultimate devotion, identity, and confidence come directly from her relationship with God rather than seeking validation from other people or possession. I'm so thankful to have that specifically in my wife, knowing that she doesn't worry too much about what other people think, what other people say. She's focused on God to a point where I can be off balance. I can be off kilter. I can be in a wrong mindset, and she will come up to me and say, "Hey, don't you think that we should do this? Don't you think we should pray about this? Don't you think that?" You know what I mean? In a loving way, saying, "Hey, um, I need you to stop doing this and be the man I need you to be."
My wife brings me
And
back to center a lot.
right,
Like,
that's what I'm getting
she
at.
kind of brings me
Yes.
back. But there's also this side of her. It's like, okay, whose car are we going to take?
Well, yeah.
Kind of thing
Well,
too.
and
It's like
and I
it.
can say that since so when we got married,
It all depends on what the situation is with her. Like if she
well,
really sees me
yes,
going off rails and it's something that
there is a back and a forth, and there's times I have to pull her back,
she
which is
pulls me a
kind of
little, but
I
there is some days she's like, I'll drive. Let's go.
right.
So you kind of have to
She
watch.
wasn't always this way.
So
So when her and I got married, we were both married before. Both of us had similar experiences with our exes and how devastating it was and what happened. And so I have a child that isn't hers, an older daughter. And so I didn't really see this side of her, the kind of whose car are we taking kind of attitude until she had a child and it brought that out in her.
my
Well,
wife's like
now
that from day
she's
one,
well,
bro.
she's definitely to a point where there's been stuff happen recently where I've had to been like,
My
you
wife
need to like can't do
My
this.
wife's parents raised her to be independent, and they worked day in, day out for years running the flea markets and there's the fish fry, and then they done watermelons when they were in Tennessee and all this stuff. Like she's always just been, and
Yes.
she's the oldest, so she's the
Oh,
alpha,
that makes sense.
and it's
Yep.
just like, let's go all the time. Let's go. Kind of stuff.
The other bullet point here is she's a trustworthy partner. She builds an environment of absolute integrity. Her husband, and this is a big one too, that I think we can both say about our wives, is that her husband can rely on her completely, knowing she protects his reputation, his finances, and his heart. And having been in a previous marriage like I did, and her and I both experienced the kind of things we did with the infidelity and my ex-wife, relapsed and all kinds of stuff, and it was very difficult to deal with. And knowing that I can rely on her, that she's not going to badmouth me to everybody in town when I make a mistake, if I make a mistake, or behind my back twist me to make me look a certain way. She seems to be someone who thinks about me and my reputation and my heart, cares enough to like, okay, I don't want to intentionally hurt this person. And that it goes on and says that she's industrious and wise. She uses her intelligence and talents to actively build up her household. Productive, acts with foresight, care for her family. She's kind, and her strength is paired with grace. When she speaks, her words are constructive, encouraging, and anchored in kindness rather than bitterness or gossip, which is what I was just saying. And she's generous to others. Her care extends past the walls of her own home. She notices the vulnerable, opening her hands to support the poor and needy in her community. And so, all of those attributes, when partnered with the man, that is the crown on his head. That is that Proverbs 12 was talking about. That is the um
You'll get here the one day. because you got kids that are married now, and you've got 2 more coming up, but, um, so you'll have people, but I was told the other day, I want the relationship that you it's my oldest daughter was talking to my wife. I want the relationship that you and dad have. And I'm like,
They don't know,
it's
do they?
so nice that you look at it from the outside and see what you see now,
Yeah.
you know, but this is not what you see
It's not
now.
perfection.
What you see now is nowhere near perfection,
Right.
but it's nowhere near what it was 10 years ago,
Right.
15 years ago, 20 years ago.
Well, that boils down to like arguing for the sake of being right. 10 years ago, you might have done that. 10 years later, you're like, it ain't worth it.
Well, it's not that it's not worth it. It's just, it's no point in it.
Right.
Only thing you're going to do is go sleep on the couch.
Yep.
Kind of situation. All right, let's finish this up. We've got like 10 minutes. Let's finish up these last few verses here. Which we've covered them all. Let's just go ahead and say we read them. That way we can say we completed the chapter. She maketh fine linen and selleth it, and delivereth girdles unto the merchant. Strength and honor are her clothing, and she shall rejoice in time to come. Now the strength and honor is her dignity. You know, the word clothing is what she's dressed in. That's not, it's a metaphor of her character. She's dressed in strength and honor as her dignity. She opened her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness. Now, sometimes that's when my wife probably needs to work. We don't, the kindness part, I'm telling you, bro, there's not a lot of kindness in our house sometimes. We're pretty rough around the edges, people. I tell people a lot, they're kind of like, if you'll give us time and get to know us, we'll be worth your time. But we know we're rough around the edges, but it weeds out the weak. We ain't got to worry about some people because they just won't come around us. She looketh well to the ways of her household, and eateth not the bread of idleness. That's 100% my wife. Dude, she was all over the house today doing stuff. I was down in the shop, finished up my son's truck, done some work on my truck, and I come back up the house, man. She's got, washer dryers running wide open. She's went into my son's room. She's come in there with a vengeance, cleaning. She's come to the bedroom with a vengeance at the house, cleaning. Like, I'm not messy, but I have things laid in certain places where I know they're at. And then I come in and I'm like, well, that's not where I had that. Now I know where, okay. Like, she's just
That's
been
not
on,
where it goes.
but it's been a Saturday. She slept in this morning. She had no alarms to get up on. She's like, and some buddies since she's been up. She told me she's going to leave and go to town and get some groceries. She left. I seen her leave, but I didn't see her come back. So I don't know how long she was gone. I come to the house a while ago and I said something about something. And she said, oh, no, I haven't been to town yet. I'm like, well, you left a while ago. She goes, oh, no, I took the garbage off. There was a box of cardboard, like some cardboard boxes in the utility room. She's like, got tired of looking at them. She just, broke them down, took care of it. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praiseth her. I just sit here and praise my wife just now. So there we go. Many daughters have done virtuously, but thou excelleth them all. Favor is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman that feareth the Lord shall be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates. So there we're back to the gates.
Yeah.
So that means if the husband does say anything at the gates, because the husband's the one sitting at the gates. So if the husband does say anything in the gates, it's about how awesome his wife is.
Yeah, that's what it says here.
I mean, that's what that was plain and simple, isn't it?
They can see, and I think that if he says anything negatively, he's a fool because
they see it.
They see it and they know better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that this circles back around to it. There's just this back and forth between the first 9 verses. And because I can tell you from my own relationship, my own experiences, when my wife, when everybody lives in the flesh for periods of time because you live in the flesh, you are flesh, right? So you have days or weeks where you just are kind of not operating, maybe as spiritually as you should. Let's just say that, right? And there's something about a woman who is focused on God that causes you to want to rise to the occasion. Now, I can't remember who I was talking to when I said this. It may have been a comment on I follow a Facebook page called The Purposed Marriage. And they were talking about forgiveness and cheating and things like that. And it's like, Um, I commented on there and said, "The only kind of cheating in this house that happens is during Uno, and even then it's closely monitored." I said, "Except for the random dream my wife has about me cheating, I still pay for those."
Yeah, you wake up with her head like, I didn't do nothing.
She's mad at me all day long. I
Yeah,
don't
you
know
didn't even do
why.
nothing.
It's like, "You were cheating on me last night in my dream." Anyway, uh, but I was just saying how that if as a woman, if your man is whatever, a good man anyway, a man who has any kind of moral compass, if he witnesses his wife pick up the line and tow it a little bit, it's gonna want to cause him it's gonna cause him want to rise to the occasion and pick that line back up, start towing again. You know
Well,
what
I'm
I
gonna tell
mean?
you, man, knowing that I'm married up makes me want to be a better man every day
Right.
because it's just thriving to, but in saying that, I didn't think that for a lot of years. You know, it's took I'm gonna say the last 15 years is when things have really started taking a turn. Because for so many years, I was so focused on my career. I mean, I really wanted to advance in my law enforcement career so hard that I spent every waking minute training, going to the gym, doing all this stuff. And it was me trying to push that career, because you never was enough in law enforcement. You never can do enough. When I was in police academy, there was a thing on the wall that said it was a man in a orange jumpsuit with his sleeves cut off and all this stuff, and he's busting out squats on a squat rack
He's
in the
training
poster.
every day.
He says, "One someday this guy's training for the day y'all meet. What are you doing?" or something of that nature. And so it's like, you know, you're always just it's never enough. Or then you have my wife who went to 4 years of college, got a degree, went to school, and they do continuous education stuff. We done in service. But I mean, dude, if you have a really and truly, if you have a cop, all he does is the 40 hours of mandatory in service every week or a year. I mean, that ain't nothing to that, bro.
Right.
And so I trained and I shot and I went to every available class I could get into and I went to the gym and everything I could do, trying to advance my career at the loss of some good quality time with my wife and kids at that age. My son was born, and then I went back into law enforcement for a short amount of time. I wasn't as gung ho the second time as I was the first time I was in, but I still was trying to advance. I thought I had some paths to advance my career, and I was trying to push some things and do some stuff, and never could get it to work out. And finally left, decided, hey, I'm just going to have a job. And I went into trucking, and I've been in trucking ever since. But it's like you just and in that point is when things started shifting because I wasn't that extra energy that I was always applying towards advancing my career. Like, oh, well, where does that need to be applied at? Well, when you're driving for 11 hours a day, the first thing you start doing is like, well, I got to occupy this time somewhere. And I can only sing the same five praise songs over and over and over again for so long. And so I started buying audiobooks here and there, and some of them started really working on me and in changing my heart and who I was, you know. So I think it's not perfect now. I mean, I still need to be a lot better dude. There's no doubt about it, but I'm a lot better than I was,
Right.
you know, 15 years ago when I got out of law enforcement, you know. And so it's just time. It took time to get to where we are. It's not perfect by no means, but
No.
it's not a ball and chain,
No, it really
bro.
isn't.
This
In fact,
woman,
more times than not, she's lifted weight off of me.
very much so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's to me, it's not a ball and chain because I want to come home to her.
Yeah.
The ball and chain I have is the crap that I have to deal with that keeps me from coming back home to my family.
Right.
Like, I enjoy my time at home. Like today, I mean, I didn't see her all day. She was in the house and I was in the shop, but I was at home.
Yeah.
I was with my boy, my dad. We were down the shop. We were working on cars and getting stuff done and just dilly dallying around. It's a great day. You know, I
And
got
that's
up.
a beautiful thing that is earned over time where you're investing in one another.
Yeah.
You don't just fall into days like that, into homes like that, into environments like that.
Well,
That doesn't just happen in a marriage.
and
It doesn't just happen that you build a family in an environment like that. It takes consistency and investment in one another. It takes the man being the Proverbs 31 man and the woman being the Proverbs 31 woman. And they can't do it without God, honestly,
Yeah.
either. You know, it takes relationship with God individually so that your relationship with each other can be what it needs to be.
Now, my wife's enjoyment now is, that I get up in the morning. I'm an early bird, dude. Like, no alarm set this morning, no nothing. But when the sun started coming through the blinds at 6 o'clock this morning, hard, like sun comes up before that, but by 6 o'clock, it's bright enough outside that it's pushing sunlight into the bedroom, even when the
Yeah.
blinds turned up
Yep.
to
And the
keep
curtain
to
closed.
keep the
Yeah.
sun from coming down to the bed. You turn them up towards the
Mhm.
ceiling. People, if you want your room darker, want your blinds towards the top,
Yep.
not towards the bottom.
That's the summer setting.
Yeah. And so it's like, I'm up. Okay, whatever. So I go in, and last night I had pre-ground the coffee, and so
I'm so happy with myself when I do that.
so I
Where I
pre-ground it the
I
night
make
before.
the coffee pot ready
Bro,
for
we got a grinder in the house. I promise you,
and they're
it
cheap.
wakes
They're
up
only
the
like
neighbors.
12 bucks from Walmart,
It
the ones
wakes
I
up the
got.
neighbors. It's so loud.
It's very loud.
But so anyway, I
Worth
done
it.
that last night. So I got up this morning, set up the coffee pot, turned the coffee pot
Oh,
on,
yeah.
went over to the table, got my devotional book out, read my devotion, gave time for the coffee to brew, got up, got my cup of coffee, come back over, and then I went into YouTube and watched a
That
couple
kind
of
of
YouTube
peace,
things.
though,
But
comes from like, it's priceless.
but
That's
the
priceless.
well, when
That's what they're trying to say in this is
I
that
said all that to say this though. Eventually, I shut the bedroom door as I went out, because my
yeah,
bedroom door comes right into the living room and the kitchen space at our house. I shut the bedroom door, do my stuff. My son had come over and he was sitting down there beside me, and all of a sudden the bedroom door opened. She never said a word. Bedroom door just opened. She goes back to the bed. I know what that means. I have made a habit. I get up, I go make her a cup of coffee, and I take it to her. And she sits at the head of the bed and does her little morning ritual stuff and drinks her cup of coffee that I brought her in bed. And tomorrow morning will be the same way. Monday morning will be the same way. And I'll probably be home Tuesday morning for a little while. So probably Tuesday morning too. But that's her enjoyment, is when I'm home, so you don't have to, I can just wake up, open the door, let him know I'm awake, because I'm already
bring me a
been
cup
awake
of
for a couple
coffee.
hours, and he'll come here and bring me a cup of coffee, and I can
I'm
just
gonna have
chill.
to edit this out so my wife doesn't hear this part.
I'll tell her on the
So if
way
she
out.
gets any ideas.
You said she'd be home in
Yeah,
about an hour. She
yeah.
should be out there. Tell her
She can't
that you
hear
need to
this.
bring,
Don't get any ideas.
tell Jade to bring you coffee in bed in the morning. But I don't know. It's just something that I do. I mean, she enjoys her time, and I don't bother her. Like, I give her a cup of coffee, and I go back in the living room, sit down in my recliner, and I don't mess with her. I don't bother her. I let her drink her cup of coffee and in peace, and I go back in there and finish up whatever
These are
I've
the
been
little
doing.
things that keep a marriage going,
It is,
in case you wanted to know.
but it's just doing things that make her happy, you know.
Yeah,
And I don't know, a decade ago, I don't know when it was I started doing it. I just
you just started
I
doing it,
just started doing it,
and it worked. Yeah.
and it made her so happy. And so now when I'm home, that's my job, and I don't
I
and I
love
don't
it.
well, and I don't mean a job as in bad thing.
Well, no.
It's my desire. It's what
Yeah.
I want to do. I mean, she's not gonna be mad at me if I don't bring her coffee. I had to get up. If I'd have got up this morning at 6 and went down to the shop and immediately had like a project that had to be done, that I had to get, done,
It wouldn't make or break it.
she
Yeah.
wouldn't have said nothing. She'd
Yeah.
understood that things had to be done. But, like my truck's sitting down there right now. I didn't tell you this.
You told me your truck was broke
Oh,
down.
Did I tell you that? Okay, I didn't tell you my
Yeah.
truck broke. So
You just didn't
they
tell me
got
any
it done.
details.
They got it done and called me today. So, but if it had been home yesterday, this morning I'd have got up before the sun was blistering hot on the side of that truck and washed the murder she wrote of oil
Oh,
all down
Lord.
the driver's side where the turbo line blew off, and I lost
I would have paid
like
those maintenance guys a little
4
extra to wash
hours,
it for you.
like 4 gallons of oil.
My goodness.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, that has to be done today, or it has to be done tomorrow or Monday though, because before I go back to work, I gotta, you know, make it presentable for the DOT guys.
I have to
So
say, I wasn't prepared to go this same route that we did with Proverbs, but now that we did, I'm glad we did.
there may be more Proverbs to come, because I read into that and we'll close out right here. But I read into the first part of Proverbs, and it says the wisdom of Proverbs is intended primarily to provide an education to life to youth. The specific audience was apparently Solomon's son, for whom the book was prepared as part of his training to assume royal responsibilities. And it says the phrase "my son" appears 23 times in the book. And the Bible says that we are a royal priesthood,
Yeah.
a peculiar people.
I think Proverbs we're
So,
gonna have a lot of content out of that moving forward.
well, now that I've read that, I'm like, okay, well, maybe I need to delve back into it just a little bit more, and read
Right.
it again with a new found thing
There's
in
a
my heart.
couple of
So,
really good verses off the top of my head that I'm down. Let's do it.
okay.
Well,
All right, guys.
thank you guys for listening. We hope you guys have enjoyed it. We will see you next time on the Forge. Well, that concludes this week's episode of the Forge. Hope that you enjoyed this episode, and if you're looking to consume more of the content that we are putting out and be um, plugged in for future content as it's released, you can find us in 3 different locations. You can find us on Facebook, you can find us on Spotify, you can find us on YouTube at NACF Ministries. That stands for Not Another Church Function. Um, it is a multifaceted ministerial effort, if you will. And we're looking forward to having some guest speakers on here soon. I've been talking to some people about collecting their testimony, their stories of recovery and of deliverance. Looking forward to having those on in the near future. And stay tuned, follow us, subscribe, like, hit that bell so you're notified of future episodes as they are released on all 3 platforms. And we hope you have a blessed day. We'll see you next time on The Forge.